about the perps. We're going to talk about the gangstalkers, because without them, this whole thing would fall apart. They're a crucial element. We have to give them their due. We're going to talk about their methodologies. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about the goal of this whole thing, and we're going to look at it from their perspective, and we're going to look at it from a realistic perspective. And the one thing that I'm going to give you that they're not going to do, a little spoiler alert, is I'm going to give you validation, right? They're invalidators. They're agitators, right? They like to play games. And they like to yank your chain, and not all of them are standing from the outside looking in. Well, they like to get on the inside. They like to infiltrate, right? Because after all, without an emotional response from you, well, their game is futile. They have to get you angry, frustrated, fearful, whatever. They have to get you emotional. That's really the way it is. Invalidation is a good way to do it. A lot of times that's what you'll deal with. And, at first they will have to infiltrate into your life, right? We're going to talk about that. They're going to gain your trust. They might play the game of a victim or whatever. They might play innocent. There's a lot of little games, and I talk about that with the false teachers and the gurus. Sometimes virtue signaling is a technique, and that's usually used by false teachers. But really, the targeted individual is very vulnerable to this because you're alone. You don't have a whole lot of people to choose from, right? That's another problem. And targeted individuals can fall into that trap where they're so isolated that they just, they pretty much have to deal with it. They love to minimize, they love to invalidate, they love to poke holes in your little balloon and watch you slowly spiral out of control, man, as they laugh or pretend like it was an accident or whatever the little game is. But really, there's a lot of things to look at when it comes to the perp. Okay, there is a lot of aspects of this. A lot of people talk about the honeypot, right? Ooh, that's a whole nother little ball of wax there. That's a whole nother sinkhole of quicksand to get sucked into, because when you get into a relationship, man, there's a commitment. There's an emotional, connection, right? There's a whole lot of things going on there. And a lot of people will get into a relationship and they might even get married or something, Hopefully it was in Vegas, because you're going to be in trouble after that. Dangerous little scenario, and it happens to people. Or maybe their spouse has turned against them, and now they're dealing with, kids getting handed over to the authorities or whatever, or a bitter divorce. It can get pretty complex. Most of the time it doesn't go that far, but it can. Okay. And fear is around every corner for the targeted individual. Making commitments is dangerous. You add a little perp to that, or even worse yet, a disguised perp, right? As a friend, little infiltrator, the splinter cell. Yeah, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. And that's another thing. You better damn well have a good sense of humor, right? Because you're going to need it, right? 1 minute, you're going to be talking to somebody, you're going to be sharing your personal information with them, you're going to be opening yourself up and making yourself vulnerable, dealing with emotions, the personal stuff, all kinds of things. You might even financially help someone, and bam, they're gonna throw the switch on you, man. And of course, you got to be ready for it. Okay, and that's another thing that we're going to talk about. Because really, when it comes down to it, targeted individuals have to have that protocol period, right? You never know when you're going to be dealing with somebody who's going to do that. And you know what? You have to have the protocol there because it shouldn't matter, right? A lot of people say, well, people learn trust and all that. Well, you know what? You don't have to trust anybody, okay? You don't. Is that pessimistic? Well, I think you'll lose faith in the world. Well, no, you don't have to have faith in the world. And if you do, you're an idiot. And you have to consider what you're dealing with. And I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to wake some people up out there, because there are a lot of people that are on this journey as a targeted individual, and they're forgetting what's going on. Okay, first of all, you're up against a bunch of stuff that doesn't even logistically make sense. Okay, and I've dealt with a lot of people when it comes to that. I'm gonna just admit right now, there's a lot of ways that this stuff could manifest. I've talked about that in videos before. But really, if you're a targeted individual and you're dealing with things that are on a higher level, if you're just getting harassed everywhere, man, if it's one of those things that you can't get away from, it's just everywhere. I had a comment from a guy, and he said that it just felt like the whole community was after him, like he was on some kind of channel, like a Truman thing, and he's got like 20, 30,000 people that he's worried about, and it's just a lot of these things are illusions. A lot of them are demonic. Okay, and I'm going to stand by that. I don't care if anybody disagrees with me. You're free to do that. And it doesn't mean the government can't be involved. It doesn't mean the cops can't be involved. It doesn't. And anybody can be involved at that point. See, that's the beauty of dealing with reality concerning your scenario. And a lot of people, the reason they don't want to admit that there's something spiritual involved in this is because they can't deal with it, man. First of all, in their mind, sometimes at least, that God has to be the one in control of that. That's not true, okay? No, he doesn't. In fact, it's the exact opposite of that. Okay, principalities and powers are running the world right now. And getting back to the point, if you're trying to get something out of this world like peace and prosperity, and you're trying to be, validated by the world around you and all that stuff, well, you're on a journey to nowhere, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, that's hopeless. How could you say no? It's not. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to wake you up a little bit, because what's going to happen is either you're going to go off chasing the will o' the wisp, and you're going to be out there trying to find something that isn't there, and you're going to be getting disappointed, and you're going to get the hammer smacked down on you time after time, because the good guys are not in control right now. It looks like the perps are getting away with it. It looks like the gangstalkers are prospering. But you know what? The cows are going to come home, and when this is over, it's going to be over forever. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to regret what they're doing. There's going to be a whole lot of people who should receive Christ as their Savior and think about what's after this, that are going to know that I was right, that they're going to see the mistake that they made, and gangstalkers, perps are at the top of the list. Okay? Yeah, they had their chance, right? The people of this world, they've got all this stuff right now. Yippee! Here we go. But you know what? It's going to come to an end. The bodies that people are in, they're decaying. We're getting old. There's pain, and you're going to die. And there's no U-Hauls behind hearses. You're not taking none of it with you. Okay? So just remember that when all this stuff is getting dangled in front of you, and it looks like all the perps and the gangstalkers are getting away with it and having fun, and you're not. You don't want to be part of it. You don't want any of this stuff. And getting back to my point, you don't want to be chasing after a bunch of things that they can take away from you. You don't want to be unrealistic. You don't want that hammer smacking down on you every other day. Okay? I'm going to help somebody right now. If you're a targeted individual who's experiencing ridiculous harassment, okay, who's even wondering if they're even real, if they're in some type of alternate dimension or something, I'm going to tell you something right now. This is reality. The people out there in the world that are running around who don't know the things that you know now, that you've been woken up to, that you are dealing with, that's reality. They're the ones that are blind, okay? The little circus funland people out there who don't know what's behind the curtain that you are looking at in an unadulterated way right now. This is reality, and they're headed for it, okay? They might skip down the yellow brick road for another 20, 30 years or whatever is left, and they're going to find out all these things. And it's going to be a rude awakening. Everybody gets it, okay? sooner or later. And one of the little games that's going to be played with you, the perps are going to play this game, is they're going to dangle things in front of you, or they're going to make light of your situation. They're going to invalidate you. They might infiltrate first, right? And then they're gonna make light of the fact that you're not making progress. Your financial life is slipping, or your social life is slipping. Oh, everything is just slipping through your fingers, and you're missing out. And what are you gonna do? What's your plan? What's your master plan of attack? What are you gonna do about all these things that you have no control over? By the way, you cannot control what people are doing to you. You can't stop the workplace harassment. You can't stop people from attacking you, from attacking your personal property, from spreading rumors about you, from yanking your chain, whatever is going on. You can't stop it. You're just trying to keep your head above water right now. But they're going to be there, and they're going to play that little game with you, and they're gonna try and suck and zap as much of your emotional energy out of you as they possibly can. Right? With the exception of, stirring you up, and making your forehead light on fire because they're getting you pissed off, or using their little magic wand to stir up that sense of injustice. Targeted individuals underestimate that. When you see someone go out on a mass shooting, what do you think is going on there? It's built up to a level that these people are desperate. They're desperate for validation. They are desperate for justice. And what happens? They don't accomplish anything. No solution. How did it happen? The same way. They became emotional. They got their chain yanked. They're getting oppressed. They're getting tortured. All these little games are being played with them to the point where they get to that place and they don't see any other way out. Don't let them do it. Don't be blinded by their techniques. Don't let them infiltrate. If they do, have the protocols there, right? Get ready for it, because when they do it, you got to remember one thing. The first thing that should pop into your mind is they're going to pay eventually. I'm not saying you should be happy about the judgment these people are bringing on themselves. Pray for them. Hopefully they'll repent, But at the end of the day, it's their choice. It's what they've chosen. They're the ones breaking the rules, okay? And eventually it's gonna come back. Might not happen right away. But they're gonna have a long time to think about how they screwed up. And you're gonna be done. You're not playing that game. You don't have to worry about that. You're not doing it. Okay? First thing that should pop into your head. That's gonna stay with them for quite a while. If they want it, let them have it. Okay? It's all yours. I'm not saying you should encourage them, but you have to remember what they're trying to do to you. And that's because the temptation is to believe these people are getting away with this stuff. Because it comes at you in mass. Sometimes targeted individuals get attacked. They get their chain yanked here. They get their chain yanked there. It seems like it's everywhere, and it just doesn't seem to end. And nobody seems like they're being held accountable. Okay, they will. First thing that should pop into your mind. And that's basically what I'm talking about when I say don't let them infiltrate, okay? Because you're going to have to deal with people. You're going to have relationships, so on and so forth. But you have to be realistic in the sense that, okay, who am I dealing with? I'm dealing with a human being, okay? And human beings, they fail. They're easily manipulated. They can turn on you. Is that, even in the regular world where people aren't targeted individuals, is it unheard of for someone to fail or stab you in the back? Of course not. It happens all the time. There's some pretty gruesome stuff in the news about family members turning against each other, whether it's for money or whatever's going on, okay? So if you're in a place where you're realistic and you're not completely offended or surprised or taken off guard when that happens, your emotional thermometer is not going to blow, right? You're gonna be realistic about that. You're not gonna have a bunch of unrealistic expectations, right? You're not that guy that sits around and totally buys, $3,000 worth of lottery tickets and thinks, he's gonna solve all his problems by the end of the month. Okay, that's not gonna happen. It's not realistic. So it has to be okay with you for that to happen. Okay, I'm not saying you got to be somebody's doormat. Okay, that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is you're prepared. Okay, and as far as your targeting, right? Is it going to be okay if you don't solve all these things and fix it, and you're not able to stop all these people from it? Of course, it's okay because you can't control other people. Right? I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to drive yourself nuts if you're trying to control all these things. You got to let some of it go, man. Let some of that go. A lot of these games that you're going to be playing with the gangstalkers, with the perps, are neutralized by awareness, right? And you know, when that perp infiltrates your life, and you trust them or whatever, or you've given them a certain amount of leeway, and they become argumentative, or they start to invalidate you, or whatever they're doing, you know that they've waited, right? They've waited for you to become weak or emotional or financially destitute or whatever, or you need some help. And there they are, you know, and you can see them for who they are. You know that they have a motive, right? When people start harassing you, even if they're strangers, if you start getting that directed conversation, or if you're getting, workplace harassment or whatever, it's done with a motive. You keep your eyes straight ahead, right? You don't react. You play stupid. You do anything but become emotional, right? And you can laugh if you want. That's okay. They don't like that. Okay. They want you to get to the point where you can't sleep, you're anxious, your face is turning red, you're so upset, and you're thinking about all this stuff. You can't eat, right? You can't enjoy anything. And then they just, walk away and laugh, and they don't care. They're not going to, if they cared, they wouldn't be doing it, right? That's the worst part about the infiltrator. You got to remember that. Don't buy into their little games, man. And a lot of times, targeted individuals they'll run into somebody who says they're a targeted individual, and then the games begin, right? There's all kinds of little red flags. Trying to alter your perception is probably one of the most popular, right? They want to put you in a position, not only where they're minimizing or invalidating you, but they want to put you in a place where they are in control, or they want to make you feel that you don't have control, right? And they'll start highlighting things. They might be fishing for information, right? Or trying to bring things up that, it's basically like triggering you. If you're talking about your harassment or whatever with another targeted individual who's actually a perp, they're going to fish for that information. They're going to try and bring up something that they know is going to get you emotional. They're going, well, my targeting is this way, or this, I've dealt with that. What about you? Okay. And right there and then, you're taking a chance by talking about it, not really in the sense that you're just trusting an individual with personal information, because you could switch up the information, but it's dangerous in the sense that you're going to be remembering things that could make you emotional, right? Targeting is a nasty experience. There's a lot of negative emotions that are involved in it. I'm not saying you can't talk about it. I'm not saying you can't discuss these things. I'm just saying you have to be aware that certain things might not be good for you to be thinking about, okay? You don't want to open up that door and let them get in there like that. Because what'll happen once you start to be emotional, you've trusted them up to that point, and now you're talking about something that you're sensitive about. What are they going to do? Well, they don't have to do anything. They could just start disagreeing with you, being subtle and poking holes in your, story about your targeting, minimizing things, whatever, right? And if you're not careful, you can get whipped up into that frenzy where you're emotional and vulnerable, and they'll take advantage of that. If you're the average targeted individual, this is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Okay, you're going to be dealing with it. And you have to have that protocol in place. The worst part about getting attacked or infiltrated by a perp is if you have expectations, right? If you got your hopes up or whatever, if you've been a targeted individual for a long time and you've been in isolation or whatever, or you're making plans or you become committed in something or whatever, then that's, well, it's going to have some leeway in your emotions. You don't want to give them that. And it's not that you have to be paranoid or whatever. It's not that you have to, give everybody a lie detector test. You just have to get to the point where you know that it's a possibility. And if it happens, you're going to be, it's not, I knew it. I knew it. You don't have to be paranoid. You don't have to have an attitude or anything. You just, you have to realize what you're dealing with. You have to realize where you are. And the huge part of the leeway that the gang stalkers are going to have is those expectations. Because, and I've talked about this before, there are a lot of things that people want, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of things that are going to be legitimate needs in your life that they're going to use against you, right? You're going to have to, have a social life. You want this, you want that. There are things that you use to boost up your morale. There's things that everybody wants, and they're going to try and get their fingers into it, man. That's what they do. Look at all the stuff you're dealing with, right? Yeah, they got their fingers in everything, and you got to expect it. Just understanding the fact that this world that we're dealing with now is temporary. The bad guys are in control, having expectations for all these things that are legitimate. It's not just about the fact that you wanted a Ferrari and didn't get it, or a 6-room mansion or something, but it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's just a shack. I don't care if it's a crappy job or something. They're gonna put their fingers in it. Okay, but you have to remember this place is temporary, and it's a very small portion of your existence. And if you're not a believer, man, if look into this stuff, look into catastrophic interpretation of scientific data. A lot of people get confused when it comes to the fossil record. There's accelerated fossilization. There's a lot of science against evolution. There's dinosaur bones that aren't even fossilized. There's dinosaur bones that have pliable collagen in them, right? All kinds of stuff that just completely defy this 50 million year old dinosaur fossil record. There's a lot of stuff that backs up the Bible with archaeological evidence. The first recipe they had for soap was the cleansing ritual, the red heifer thing that's going on over in Israel. Look into that. That was soap. Okay, way before we ever knew anything about germs or any of that stuff. Amazing stuff. Look up at Mount St. Helens. Look at the rock layers and stuff that happens when you have a type of catastrophic event, right? There's junk science involved in evolution. Okay, the whole point I'm getting at is that this stuff is going to be over. It's pretty much gone already. Yeah, you're just writing this whole thing out. Life, real joy, real peace, all those things are going to come after this. Okay? And there's a reason for that, because people have to believe that. And the only way they're going to believe it is they believe the Bible. They're going to have faith in that. That's the axiom of this whole test. A lot of people have talked about that in the target individual community. This place is a test, right? It's a testing ground. It is. And a lot of the stuff in this world that you want, and even if it's legitimate, they're gonna get their fingers in it. They're gonna come after it, and you got to be willing to just let that go for your own good, right? I'm doing it. I've been doing it for decades, and eventually, one day, they're gonna regret this stuff. That's another thing to remember. So watch those expectations. Watch what kind of plan that you're creating to deal with this stuff. I've read comments before, or heard people talking about this. They think they're getting away with it, and some of them do believe that. Okay, a lot of these perps are deceived, but some of them, the reason they're so tenacious, the reason they're so intense, the reason they're coming in on you so hard and heavy is because they know that all the stuff they got right now is going to slip right through their fingers, man. It's going to be gone, and there ain't no getting it back, and they've compromised the whole thing, And they're trying to ride this out and try to convince themselves and other people to come with them on this journey where you're getting your ass kicked and they win. But it's not like that. And a lot of them know it. Okay? Something to remember. The other huge problem that targeted individuals run into is processing this as judgment from God or condemnation. That's not even possible. Okay, look at the inconsistencies out there. There are a lot of people who are doing the wrong thing. They're lying, they're cheating, they're stealing stuff, and nobody's gangstalking them. They're doing worse stuff than that. Okay, and they seem to be living pretty good lives. They're not dealing with this stuff at all. And the Bible talks about that even in the Old Testament where they had the Old Covenant and they prospered from time to time. They had to live by faith even though they were under the law. But God's not going to be unfair. He's not going to obfuscate the truth. In Psalm 73, the servant of the Lord was envious of the foolish, right? He was envious of the prosperity of the wicked until he saw the end of where they were going to end up. This place is a test. You have to live by faith. The point I'm getting at is when you look at the New Testament, you're not going to see all this prosperity stuff that people talk about, maybe even in the Christian community. None of that, okay? And they suffered and they died and they were ridiculed by the world. They were hated by the world, okay? I'm not saying that all this is happening because of your faith. I'm just saying that that's the reality, okay? If God's blessing was in this life, it's certainly not demonstrated in the New Testament at all. So when you're looking at this stuff, when you're processing the information, it's not judgment, it's not condemnation. That's completely inconsistent. And the people that we have as examples in the Bible, well, they didn't prosper in this world either. Okay? So when you're looking at the spiritual aspect, it's important to understand that. So when you've been infiltrated, when you're getting your chain yanked, whatever, here's what I do. Okay, you guys remember the movie Fallen, right? You remember the demon guy that was chasing around Denzel Washington and singing his little song, "Time is on my side." Oh yeah. Okay. Well, time isn't on their side. It's really the last thing that's true. Okay, because it's going to run out. And if you're a believer and you're dealing with a perp, if you're dealing with gangstalking or whatever, you're just killing time right now anyway. That's all you're doing. Okay? Don't deceive yourself. And after this whole thing is over, they're done. They're done, man. If somebody's, oh, look, I infiltrated your life and I wasted all your time and you've been distracted and you didn't get me emotional. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay? Because why? Because I am processing this correctly. I'm just killing time here. I'm not deceived. I'm not trying to, keep up with the Joneses. I'm not trying to grab a hold of a bunch of stuff. I know that it's temporary, right? You're the one wasting your time. You are. You don't repent, that's all you get. If the perps were smart, they wouldn't waste their time. They'd be out trying to have fun. Screw your head on. It's like worrying about going to the old folks' home when you're going to hell. If you're a believer, targeted individual, the best is yet to come for you. And no one can take that away, okay, ever. It's not going to, rust. It's not going to tarnish. The thief can't break in and take it. It's going to be eternal, and it's going to be really, really good. Well, hopefully these videos are validating something that they're trying to invalidate. Okay, don't have unrealistic expectations. Have a sense of humor. Know that you win in the end. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe.